The moment Fan Xiao lost that final bit of support on one side of his body, everything seemed to slow down. His knee hit the floor first, followed by the quiet thud of his palms landing beside him, spreading against the ground in an unsteady posture that would have made any other person look embarrassed or shaken. Yet for him it created the opposite effect. Because even in the middle of falling apart, the moment Fan Xiao lost that final bit of support on one side of his body, everything seemed to slow down. His knee hit the floor first, followed by the quiet thud of his palms landing beside him, spreading against the ground in an unsteady posture that would have made any other person look embarrassed or shaken. Yet for him it created the opposite effect. Because even in the middle of falling apart, instead of jumping back to his feet or pretending nothing happened, he let his weight sink lower, allowing himself to settle on the floor in a slow, deliberate movement, as if he was choosing the ground on purpose rather than falling to it. He tilted his head back and looked up at the man standing above him, eyes calm but intense, almost like he was observing something he had been waiting a long time to see. When he finally spoke, his voice came out lower, heavier, and more honest than usual, as if something inside him had peeled open just a little. He told You Shulang that he hadn't been playing him and hadn't been trying to belittle him, even though he knew that was exactly what it looked like from the outside. He admitted that he liked having You Shulang revolve around him, that he wanted the man's eyes, to hold no one else, and that he wanted to be at the center of his attention. He did not hide the truth behind pretty excuses or playful jokes. Instead, he said it directly, with a softness that carried the kind of weight that can only come from someone finally dropping the mask they had worn for too long. His words were not rushed. They slid out slowly, one after another, like they had been sitting in his heart for longer than he wanted to admit. When he asked, "Tell me, why do you think that is?" the question hung in the air like a quiet confession he wasn't brave enough to say outright. Every syllable carried the sense that he wanted the real answer to come from You Shulang instead of himself, because saying it plainly would make it too real, too vulnerable, and too terrifying. As those words settled between them, a tremor flickered through You Shulang, barely noticeable but impossible for Fan Xiao to miss. You Shulang's brows pulled together slowly, the expression on his face tightening into something that was not anger, not confusion, but a heavy, tangled mix of emotions that refused to settle into one shape. His eyes darkened as he locked onto Fan Xiao's gaze, and for a long moment he simply stood there silent, trying to understand what exactly was happening in front of him. It was clear from the way his breath shifted that he did not know how to process the sudden honesty or what to do with the meaning behind it. It was equally clear that something inside him was fighting to stay under control. His voice finally came out low, restrained and steady. But the steadiness sounded forced, as if he was trying to close a door that someone had suddenly pushed open. He said he didn't know the reason and didn't want to know it either, turning his back as if distance would make everything easier to handle. He forced himself to return to something safe, something routine, something that did not require emotional vulnerability. He gave Fan Xiao a work assignment for the next day, something cold and practical that had nothing to do with the moment they had just shared. He told him that tomorrow he would be responsible for pulling boxes and organizing documents. A task that sounded ordinary, but was clearly a way to push him back into the role of an assistant, not a man standing on the edge of an emotional confession. He told him to get up and go to sleep, his voice hard and distant, like he was drawing a line in the sand and daring the other man to cross it. But Fan Xiao did not look frustrated or disappointed. Instead, he lifted the corner of his lips again, except this time the smile carried something deeper and far more dangerous. His gaze remained fixed on You Shulang's retreating figure. And in that single expression, there was a quiet storm waiting to break. His eyes were dark and intense, filled with a clashing mixture of cold calculation and burning emotion. It was not simple desire, not simple longing, and not simple frustration. It was something much heavier, something that had been growing for a long time, something that might have even scared him if he had not been the kind of person who moved toward danger instead of away from it. The air around him seemed to tighten, as if he was holding back a force that threatened to burst out the moment he let it slip. Even sitting on the floor, even after being dismissed, his presence filled the room with a fierce kind of energy that refused to fade. His final response was soft, almost gentle, but the softness only made it more intense. The single "all right" that left his mouth carried a weight of acceptance, understanding, and something darker beneath the surface. It was a promise and a threat wrapped into one quiet word. It said that he had heard everything, that he accepted You Shulang's attempt to push him away, and that he had absolutely no intention of stopping. His voice held a calmness that came from certainty, not surrender. It was the calm of someone who already knew the path he wanted to take, and was willing to move down that path no matter how many walls he had to break along the way. The room felt different after that. Even though neither of them spoke again, the silence became thick enough to touch. Fan Xiao remained on the floor for a moment longer, steadying his breathing as he watched You Shulang disappear into the hallway, each step creating a distance that felt both temporary and unbearably sharp. He finally pushed himself up from the ground, his movements slow, controlled, and almost thoughtful, like he was replaying the entire moment in his mind and studying every detail. He was no longer pretending, no longer hiding behind jokes or dramatic gestures. His expression now carried a kind of calm determination that made it clear he had crossed a line internally, a line that would change everything moving forward. He moved toward the light switch, paused, and let out a breath he had been holding for far too long. The moment had shaken him more than he wanted to admit because he finally saw clearly what he had been avoiding all along. He realized that his desire for You Shulang's attention was not just pride or ego, but something rooted much deeper than he had ever intended to let grow. The truth was simple, even if he didn't dare say it. He wanted the man, not just the reactions, not just the game, but the person standing behind those guarded eyes. And even though You Shulang said he didn't want to know the reason had already made itself obvious to both of them. Fan Xiao turned away and walked toward his room. His steps steady, but filled with an energy that hinted at the emotional storm building inside him. The night felt different, almost charged, and even though nothing physical had happened between them, everything had changed. The barrier between them had cracked, and now that crack was impossible to ignore. As he lay down, closing his eyes, the last image in his mind was not the cold back You Shulang had shown him, but the moment before, the moment when their eyes met, when the truth hovered unspoken between them, and when both men understood that the space they shared was no longer simple or professional. The story between them was shifting, growing heavier and more complicated with every step, and neither of them had the ability or the desire to turn back now.